Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the LTT Podcast. My name is Brendan Plays. This is the show where we answer all the questions that you send in every single week, and you can do that on the Brendan Plays forums at brendanplays.com/forums. Signing up to the forums is 100% free. Make sure you do it right now. Clash of Champions this weekend, and we're going to be discussing the Clash of Champions pay-per-view live whilst it's all going down on Brendan Plays. You can also leave a question by heading over to our Facebook page, Brendan Plays Official, and by leaving a question on our official post of the week. That generally goes up after SmackDown or thereabouts, so check that out. Also on the website, brendanplays.com, you can leave a voicemail, and of course, in the YouTube comment section down below. Alright, so this weekend, as we said a moment ago, Clash of Champions coming up yet again, another pay-per-view. My god, it was 2 weeks ago we had Backlash? Was that last week? 2 weeks ago. I mean, my god, they're just coming around even quicker than they used to. Like, I think that we complained earlier this year that there was 2-3 weeks apart. Now it's getting even worse. So the pay-per-views are getting more and more and more. Yes, it is a Raw pay-per-view and then a SmackDown pay-per-view, so they're two completely different shows, but still, it's a lot. It still is a lot. I feel like the 3-week gap would be better instead of 2, but currently it's 2 at the moment. So yes, Clash of Champions this weekend. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to have a full preview of that pay-per-view, as well as talking about all the latest in this week's world of wrestling, including WWE buying TNA, those rumors, the situation with the Cruiserweights on Raw. I'm going to give my full review on that, and I'm going to tell you right from the get-go, if you want an early preview, I think it's great. So we're going to talk about that. And also, we're going to talk about the ratings issue that WWE is currently facing on SmackDown and on Raw. And we're even going to touch on Hulk Hogan potentially coming back. And plus, we're going to talk about some different things that have been happening on the channel as well. So we've got plenty to talk about in today's podcast. So let's get straight into it. So let's start off with our WWE 2K17 DLC announcement. If you didn't see the videos on my channel, I put up 2 videos. One was the first announcement. The second one is the full announcement. Basically, they are announcing the entire DLC already. So we basically have an idea of what DLC we can expect to see for the game. Now, generally, they kind of outline the entire DLC plan schedule pretty early, generally before the game comes out. So I know for some people that kind of triggers a lot of people. And for me, I'm 50-50 on it. At least I know what I'm going to get from the season pass. So if I'm going to commit to buying that, I know what I can expect to get. And I got to say, this year's DLC is much better than last year's. So I'm definitely looking forward to the characters we're going to be able to play as. But again, as well as that, it's if they've got these DLC guys planned, why can't we get them for release? Why do we have to buy them again as DLC? Why can't we have them in the game originally? Why are some guys, for example, like Bobby Roode and Rhino, being left out of that DLC pack? There's a few interesting questions that have to kind of be answered there, and I guess we've kind of been very critical of it for the last number of years, since we've kind of been heavily involved in having the podcast and things like that to kind of talk about it. I think we've kind of been really critical of the fact that they don't really do anything once they've planned it out. Basically, they'll create a plan. This is who's going to be in DLC. That's it. They're not going to be flexible with it. If you didn't make the cut, you didn't make the cut. Too bad. So, for example, they don't update attires. So John Cena he will already most likely be outdated when we get the game. If someone gets a haircut, that's not getting updated. Someone changes the color of their shirt, whatever, whatever. Someone grows a beard. Someone changes, whatever, you know what I mean. Whatever tiny little details that get changed, they don't update that. And that's always going to be a massive problem, because it's never really going to be a realistic simulation of WWE. If John Cena's coming out wearing a purple and pink t-shirt, and in the game he's got a blue t-shirt, well, already that's a problem, isn't it? And yes, community creations, so we can update it ourselves, but let's be honest, wouldn't it be nice if people can just load up a patch? There it is, it's all there. So that's always a problem I'm going to have. And to tie it back into the DLC, look at Rhino and Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode just recently came on the scene. Rhino just recently came back. So you could probably argue, alright, they've kind of missed the boat there, but hey, we could always put them in, in a couple months' time, after the game comes out. Maybe put them in, January or February if you're going to want to get all this other DLC done first. Let's add them in the game then. Why not? But instead, we have to wait, and we're going to have to wait until next year. And most likely, there's a chance they might not even make the cut next year. That's just the way it goes, and it's so frustrating when we could have a good version of these guys a legitimate version of these superstars, because I've got a Bobby Roode right now on WWE 2K16, and it's not good. It's not good at all. Rhino, the version I've got, it's not good. I would love to have a proper Rhino and a proper Bobby Roode. I think most of us would. I have to say, it was good we got Austin Aries. It was good we got the club. Ty Dillinger as well, I think should have been in the game to begin with, so that's ridiculous that we had to pay for him, as is Mojo Rawley. So those are two guys that already should have been in there. But I guess it is good in a way that we did get Aries and the club, who could have missed out. Realistically, Aries, when did he come back? When did he debut? Was that like March or something like that? Same with the club. I think their cutoff time is like May generally, so they really should have been in the game to begin with. That's pretty slack, and I think that was more of a strategic decision by them to leave them out. And I mean, couldn't they add Rhino and Bobby Roode to that? You know, keep the club out, put the club back in the real game, put Aries in the game, and have Roode and Rhino, for example, maybe add someone else in there to fill that spot. Yeah, so just laziness from 2K in a way. I get why they do this. It's obviously Aries is a pretty popular superstar at the club. Most people are going to want to have, and Dillinger and Rawley are nice additions as well. So I think most people will probably be inclined to get that pack rather than if they are, added a few other people. But realistically, there's so many NXT people that didn't make the cut. Look, for example, Ember Moon coming in, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Liv Morgan, the Authors of Pain, TM61. I think Gargano and Ciampa didn't make it. And look at all these Cruiserweight guys just coming in as well. Wouldn't it be cool if they did a big Cruiserweight pack later on, maybe the start of next year, and added all these new Cruiserweight guys in? Wouldn't that be awesome? People will pay for that. And I don't really see why they don't do that, because yes, they'll be in next year's game. That's great. But you're already getting the next year's game for the full package. So wouldn't it really make more business sense as, hey, let's get these guys in. Let's, look, the game comes out in October. They can easily get this pack out in January. It'll still sell. February even March, if they want to go that late. Get this pack done then. It'll sell. People will be happily buy that. So, to me, that's a lot of time that they can do to put, 6, 7, 8 guys in a game? Surely it doesn't take 6 months to do that. So, I don't see the business sense behind it as well. That's one of the things that I'm always scratching my head over. Their business decisions at the WWE games. It's been like that for years. But if you want to make the most money, and also you want to have the full, realistic roster, why not do a Cruiserweight pack, add all these Cruiserweights in, sell it later on, sell it for $10. People are going to buy that shit. I definitely will. So it's frustrating. And like I said, there's so many people that missed the cut that should have been in there. But for whatever reason, they want to put people that arguably no one wants to really play as. I mean, Brutus Beefcake, for example, Papa Shango, The Godfather. It's cool that the Freebirds and the Von Erichs are in the game, but I think majority of their audience aren't really aware of who they are, or not really familiar with a lot of their work. So they probably won't care for that. I don't think there's many people in their target market that are really chomping at the bit for that DLC. I think they would much rather see, like for example, a Billy Kay or a Liv Morgan, or someone like that get in there, or Bobby Roode or Rhino, for example. But it's just frustrating. And as a huge fan of the WWE games, there's so many things that they can do to really elevate it to the next level. And even their DLC, which I think is, a huge issue in the gaming industry right now, is DLC and, kind of pay to win content and things like that. And, to enhance your game, you're going to have to pay an extra $20, $30 to really get the full value out of the game on top of what you're already paying to buy it. That's generally the case, and it kind of is again here, but, at least if we do that, at least make it worth our while. I can't see why not, Bobby Roode, let's add him in as soon as we can, and, pay $3 and you get Bobby Roode in your game. Sell them all separately if you want. As soon as they're done, as soon as they're ready to go, add them into the game. Why not have a whole, for example, Survivor Series comes up, and you get all the new attires that might appear at the Survivor Series, or the Royal Rumble, for example. Anyone that comes in at the Royal Rumble, put them in the game. I just don't understand it. Maybe they don't have the budget to do it. Maybe they're on, a strict time schedule. They have to kind of start working on the new game in a certain period of time. I get that, but still, I just feel like there's so much that could be done, and it's so disappointing to see WWE 2K, the game, still making the same mistakes over and over and over. From what I know, there was a few people that got to go out and fly out to play the game and test the game. Obviously, I was not one of them because, I'm Australian. There's really no chance of me ever getting that type of opportunities. But it's cool. Those guys got to do it, which is cool. I hope they had a good time. Hopefully, I haven't seen any of the feedback, but hopefully it was a good experience. So, obviously, the game is getting closer and closer to being finished up, which it probably should be by now. So pretty positive to see them uploading trailers. The new career mode trailer came out, which looks really good. I'm definitely going to be playing a lot of career mode this year and doing videos on it. And obviously announcing all the DLC stuff as well. And more gameplay is coming out this year than I think usual. So it's a good sign that they're happily to post more content for us now. I wouldn't mind seeing them a video outlining universe mode and the promo engine and see how that kind of works. That's what I hope to see next. But, I've got to say, it is positive stuff. It's looking pretty good. It's not all negative from me. Trust me, I'm very much so looking forward to the game. But there's a few things that worry me a little bit, and there's a few things that kind of tick me off. So I just kind of had to vent here. That's what the show is for, venting about my thoughts and stuff. Alright, so I want to touch on a little bit here. We did a Universe Mode stream yesterday. I don't know how many of you guys kind of turned out that'll be listening to the show right now, but I think we had about 80 people show up for a random out-of-nowhere kind of stream, which was pretty cool. So we streamed NXT, our latest episode of Universe Mode. We streamed it on the channel, and I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. The reason why I kind of did that is because I feel like it's something that I can stream. It's more content for me to give to you guys, and also I kind of really enjoy creating Universe Mode as this show, like as a live type of show. I like that atmosphere. I like interacting with people whilst the show's on. I like you guys being able to kick back and talk to me whilst the show's on and get my thoughts and opinions on what's coming up and discuss everything that's happening in the show. I like that. So I think it was pretty fun, and I definitely want to do more of that in the future. I think that's something that really interests me. I wanted to do it not long ago, but I did a poll up on the website, and most people said, no, we don't want to see every episode of Universe Mode streamed live. So I don't know if every episode will be live, but I'll definitely do a lot more. I'll certainly start to do some, and I'll try and let you guys know more in advance when it's going to be. Problem is obviously my time zone is really bad, and most of you guys will be at school and things like that when I stream. So I'll try and do at least, if I have an episode coming up on the weekend, I will always try and stream on the weekend an episode of Universe Mode for you guys, because I think it's pretty cool. I think you guys definitely enjoy heading out to the shows live and discussing it. I know a lot of you guys definitely enjoy doing the Survivor Series, for example. Coming along to that pay-per-view live was awesome. We had so many viewers there. So definitely the pay-per-views and things like that you guys really, really enjoy doing. So that's something I'll try and do more and implement that more onto YouTube and Twitch for my channel. Alright, so let's get into the news of the week. We kind of talked about my thoughts and feelings about everything that's going on with me. Let's get into the WWE chat this week. Now, big rumours going around is that TNA is up for sale, and we'll start it off with this week. There's been some talk that Ring of Honor might be interested, and also WWE interested. Now, the talk is that WWE is only interested in buying their tape library, which is pretty much the only thing that I believe is worth value. I think getting tapes of, Bobby Roode, James Storm, AJ Styles, Sting, Kurt Angle, you name it, all that stuff I think would be cool. Plus, they've had some great moments in TNA. Samoa Joe's another one, for example. I think it'd be great to have that. And you see, a lot of WWE guys coming in from TNA, and there's not much to really show because they can't really show anything from TNA, and that's a huge portion of their career. So, for example, AJ Styles, all they can really show is, the Japan stuff. So what about all the stuff before? Or, the occasional Ring of Honor show, since Ring of Honor lets them use that. So, yeah, it's interesting that they don't, they have to kind of leave all that out, but that's what happens. And I'm sure they would love to have that footage to show it. I know, for example, there was even some rumors right now that they're interested in bringing back Matt Hardy, and obviously Jeff Hardy as well, which I think we all know he's pretty interested in coming back. So I'm sure they would love to have some of that stuff that they've been doing in TNA, even though some of the stuff they've been doing in TNA is pretty crazy. I finally did get a chance to watch Delete or Decay, by the way. And I gotta say, I don't know, man. I'm torn. I get, it's funny and it's weird, it's wacky, but it's pretty crazy. I don't know. I'm torn on it. I just don't know. Do I love it? No. Did I hate it? I don't think I did, but I don't know if I liked it at all. I'm indifferent on it. I don't know. I didn't mind the first one. What was that, Final Deletion? I thought that was pretty cool, pretty different, pretty crazy. But I don't know, I think they tried a little bit too hard, in my opinion, on the Delete or Decayed. It was kind of like a bad horror movie type thing that going on, and I'm not a fan of bad horror, so I don't know. That's just my thoughts. But anyways, Ring of Honor buying TNA, I don't see the point in that. I think that'd just be a waste of money. TNA is not much bigger than Ring of Honor these days, and Ring of Honor buying TNA, kind of morphing it into their own, I don't think will really grow them at all. I don't think it'll really benefit them at all. I think that's just a bit of a waste. So if WWE does buy TNA and gets their library, I don't expect an invasion angle. Like, who's going to invade, really? Like, there's no one that could really invade that will make you go, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, most of the guys have already in the WWE that have come from TNA, so I would expect them to quietly buy TNA, close it up, get the tapes, and keep the guys they want to keep, get rid of the guys they don't want to keep. And a company like Ring of Honor might thrive from that on the independents, and some other independents like PWG, for example, might grow a little bit from that, having all these new talents available. So it could be a good thing for some other companies, but obviously it's not going to be a good thing at all for the wrestling industry if TNA does fold and if WWE does buy them, because it'll just mean that any small inkling of competition will be now dead and buried. And we'll have to wait until another big company comes along, until a big, maybe another millionaire comes along and starts to invest in wrestling or something like that. But, yeah, so I hope TNA does stay on. I don't watch the product, but, the guys need somewhere to work. I heard Cody Rhodes is coming into TNA with Brandy Rhodes, so that's pretty cool. I think that's, I like that. I think that's, a good signing. Cody Rhodes is a great wrestler. I watched his Sam Roberts interview the other day, and, I definitely think Cody Rhodes is a good fit for the company. He's a good spokesperson. He has a good look. He's a great wrestler, so I think overall that's a fantastic pickup for them. I don't think he's going to be exclusive or anything like that, but he'll come in, work a program, and kind of move on, perhaps, but still a good pickup for them. They've certainly got Damien Sandow there. That's a good signing. If they could get Ryback, I think that'd be good. Maybe Wade Barrett as well. So there's a few guys out there that I think could definitely help their product. So I think it would be a shame right now to see them kind of fold. Hopefully they can keep going. All right, so let's move on to this week's Monday Night Raw. We're going to kick it off with the Cruiserweights, which I thought was really the only point of interest for me on the show, was the big reason why I wanted to watch the show, and they certainly delivered. It wasn't anything crazy, and there's a reason for that. There's a rumor going around right now is that they're already thinking about toning back the Cruiserweights. So they kind of let them go all out on the Cruiserweight Classic, as probably expected, but on week-to-week Monday Night Raw, they're not going to let them do that, because obviously there's a higher risk of injury. They want to keep them around longer. They want these guys around for years, not weeks. So I can respect that. I get that. So don't expect the craziness of the Cruiserweights that we saw in the Classic. They'll certainly tone it down, but it still was a lot of fun. It was great seeing 4 new faces out there. Grand Metalik is my guy. I'm a big fan of him now. He's really, really impressed me. I would have liked to see TJ Perkins out there just to do something, whether it be on commentary, whether just to watch ringside, just do something, cut a promo, introduce himself. Now he's going to go to the pay-per-view as a champion when the Raw audience hasn't even seen him before. So basically, the champion's going to have a title match on a show he's never been a part of. That's crazy. That's a crazy thought, and I think it's a really strange decision. And I think it could come back to bite them a little bit. I think not having him out there, the crowd's going to be like, well, who's this guy? Who the hell's this guy? They don't even know who he is, because they have, they're seeing, all right, we saw Brian Kedrick on Raw, fair enough, but who's the champion? I've never seen him before. And a lot of people didn't watch the Cruiserweight Classic, so them relying on the fact that they've watched it is not a good idea, because I don't think most people did. So I didn't watch the whole thing either, because the reason why I didn't really watch it is basically 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, an hour at NXT sometimes if I feel like watching it. Then another hour of the Cruiserweight Classic. It's just a lot. It was too much for me. Plus a 3-hour pay-per-view, 4-hour pay-per-view as of late. So a lot of wrestling, and to get to the Cruiserweight Classic just wasn't going to happen. So, yeah. But, so it was a crazy decision. But like I said, I think Rich Swann, I haven't really seen too much of him, but Swann really impressed me. Very charismatic, had the dance, seems like a lot of fun. So I was pretty impressed by him. I thought he was good. I thought the one person who didn't get much of a highlight was maybe Cedric Alexander, which is strange because I think he's really great. I watched him in NXT this week against Andrade, and he was great. I like his theme song a lot. I think it's cool. I like him. I think Cedric is great. So it was strange not seeing him get too much of a showcase. But I think overall it was an exciting match. Brian Kendrick winning is the right decision. Obviously, Brian Kendrick has a bit of a notable name. Obviously, has been in and out of WWE for a long time now. But he's a veteran. He can put over TJ Perkins, and he's a safe, reliable choice. And I think a lot of fans will have an idea of who he is, respect who he is, and blah, 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 blah. And it can help kind of, establish TJ Perkins on his first night and help him get him through it. So he's the safe option. He's the right pick. And like I said, he's the veteran, and he'll certainly help out in the division. Now, what I think will be interesting is who they kind of add already on the roster to the division. For example, like a Neville. Maybe if they brought up Austin Aries, he be one put in there. Sin Cara, for example. I think Kalisto would be perfect for it, but he's on the wrong brand. It'd be interesting to see who does make the cut, who does join the Cruiserweight division, because technically there's a lot of guys on the roster that can be classified as a Cruiserweight, so it'll be pretty interesting to see who does get in there. And how will they use the Cruiserweights? They're still kind of having them appear on NXT as well. How long will that last? I don't know, but are they going to intertwine it between NXT and Raw, which was a rumor that they may do that? I think that would be a good decision. So have some of the lower end Cruiserweights in the division appear on NXT, build themselves up and whatnot. I think that'd be cool, as well as do it on Raw. But hopefully the Cruiserweights division, hopefully the division works. Hopefully it doesn't fizzle out after a few months and they get bored of it. A lot of people hating on the championship design. I love it. I think it's great. I think the purple and silver is a nice combination. I thought the overall design was cool. It's not a big W, which is great. I have no problem with it, really. I really don't. I think it's great. I'm a big fan of it. I think when I saw it appear on the Cruiserweight Classic, it looked good. So I think everything is looking pretty good at the moment with the Cruiserweights, and I'm hoping that it can continue with this momentum, because probably for the first time, I'm actually interested in watching the Cruiserweights. Didn't care for it back in the day when they originally had it, but I'm genuinely excited to see what happens with the Cruiserweights right now. Like I've been saying the last few weeks, I would have them have 35, 45 to an hour minutes on Raw every week, allocate that to the Cruiserweights, and then have, the other 2 hours to everything else. And that'll help fill in time and kind of really help the show out overall. So hopefully they can do something like that and benefit the show. Notable exclusion this week was Paige. She was not on the show, which was interesting that she said she was going to be on Raw. Maybe she just didn't get used. Maybe she makes her return at Clash of Champions to help out Alicia Fox in her match against Nia Jax. I think that's quite likely. If they're going to see Paige return, I think there's a fair chance that may happen because of their friendship in real life. We've seen it on Total Divas and stuff. They can play off that. So I think that's a pretty decent chance of happening. Another rumor going around is that Emma has in fact been ready to go for the last 6 weeks, but she hasn't been used. So that's a really interesting situation. I thought Emma would be perfect for the division right now. Obviously, they're kind of lacking a little bit in women on Raw. So not having her being used at all is a bit of a shame. There's been even some talk that she might even head over to SmackDown if she does return. I don't think she's officially been assigned a brand, so she could go to either, really. I would have thought she'd go to Raw, but they don't want to reunite her with Dana Brooke anytime soon, so who knows? She might be heading over to SmackDown, which would be pretty cool. But I think her on SmackDown would be good as the top heel. I think they're lacking a top heel at the moment. Alexa Bliss, we'll talk more about that later, maybe. But Alexa Bliss on SmackDown, her promo just wasn't good. Becky Lynch, not a great promo either, but still, Alexa Bliss was not good at all. Emma as a top heel could be good. It could be a good fit on SmackDown, so I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. I think that would fit well. Summer Rae's also injured as well, so that's another injury blow they're having towards their women's division, so Raw's missing another woman there, so it's a bit of an issue they've got going on. Probably the highlight of Raw this week, which probably apart from the Cruiserweights, was Chris Jericho again. This guy's on fire. Chris Jericho, the GOAT. He's a legend. He's the man. He is continuously, week in, week out, delivering great lines, funny stuff, great promos, the skits, back and forth with Kevin Owens, or whether it be in the ring or outside the ring. All the stuff he's doing is fantastic. The list of Jericho was great. hilarious. I loved it. All I can say is, I'm so glad Jericho's here, and I hope he doesn't leave anytime soon. I know he's probably going to be heading off pretty soon, but please, Jericho, don't go. I'm begging you, Chris. We need you right now. Please don't go. But, he's been great. And finally, the main event, Seth Rollins flying off the steel cage at the end, Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens having a match. Roman Reigns winning is interesting, having the champion lose just before a pay-per-view against someone who he's not versing at the pay-per-view is a questionable decision. Obviously, losing by an escape doesn't really have the same effect as losing by pinfall. So I guess that's a way to keep Roman Reigns looking good heading in towards his US title match without Kevin Owens really suffering too much. But they kind of went with the double escape finish, Reigns getting out first, so it doesn't affect Kevin too much, but it was just an interesting call that they decided to have Reigns win. But whatever, that's fine. I'm looking forward to Reigns and Rusev again. That's going to be fun. But I guess an interesting thing was Seth Rollins coming out to help Roman Reigns. A lot of talk as, Seth and Roman going to reunite. Is this going to happen again? We're going to see these guys team up. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of for it, to be honest with you, because I was such a big fan of The Shield. I'm for it, but after seeing these two guys feud for the last year, I mean, does it really make sense? Not really. So that's kind of like my main concern with that storyline sense. These guys have hated each other for such a long period of time. What now? Seth Rollins is acting nice for the last 3 weeks. All of a sudden we have to, all of a sudden Roman Reigns is going to forgive him for everything he's done. So I hope they kind of don't go with that too quickly. You'd have to have Roman Reigns earn back the trust of Seth Rollins over the long period of time with a full-on storyline, in my opinion, before you head back towards any type of tag team reunion between those two. Which, by the way, I'm glad it looks as though Seth Rollins is going to remain as a babyface. I think that's the right call. I think he should have came back as a babyface. Having him turn heel and go back to the same old thing just wasn't good. And it's a nice freshener up. Seeing him versus Rusev this week, for example, was nice, even though the match didn't finish. But getting some new matchups out of Seth Rollins, him against Kevin Owens, for example, will be good. And, him versus some other top heels will be certainly interesting. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a good decision. And like I said, Clash of Champions will be decent. I think it's going to be good. But I definitely think Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens might just steal the show. I think that's going to be a tremendous match. That's all I have to say with Raw this week. I'm going to say again, SmackDown was the better show. Raw, again, losing ratings. It wasn't a big drop this week, but a notable drop this week for SmackDown, who performed very well last week, almost beating Raw, but a big drop this week. I think they lost 400,000 viewers or something like that, one of their worst ratings since the brand split began. So WWE is currently in a bit of a situation where their ratings is pretty poor, and it's not going to get any better. Monday Night Football back on. They do... No, SmackDown's on Tuesday. I was going to say they do Thursday Night's football, but that's the old SmackDown, not anymore. So forget about that. Scratch that one. I'm going to try and remember what days football's on. And the SmackDown's on. So they do Monday Night Football. It's always going to affect Raw's ratings, but Monday Night Football's been on every year for the last, however long. So it's always affected Raw. So there's really no excuses there. I will say the US presidential election debate, when that comes, I think Raw's going to have perhaps the worst rating maybe of all time. It's going to really bomb. It's going to be really bad. So Raw, I have no idea what they can do. They might have to bring out The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. They have to bring The Rock on or something. I have no freaking clue what they can do to save that week. To be honest, I'm going to watch. So I'll be watching. So I don't know. Hopefully they do something crazy because I'll enjoy it. Because I really don't care about the US president. And why would I? I'm Australian. We kind of keep an eye on a little bit. What we do with Donald Trump is we kind of laugh at him. And Hillary Clinton, we just kind of shake our heads. So that's really basically our opinion on those two. We don't care really. We feel as though either way, it's fucked. So either way, America's fucked. So we're kind of just laughing in the background. But so Raw's going to struggle. SmackDown, I think last week had the benefit of the Backlash after show, Backlash, the show after Backlash, helping their rating out. So Raw might get a boost next week because it's after Clash of Champions, but still it's going to be hurdle to overcome, but the ratings is a definite worry. You know, you can kind of blame it on a few things: people DVRing, people watching online, people just kind of, you know, waiting until they watch it when they're free, you know, watching the next day. They're not, you know, you can kind of watch TV whenever you want these days. If you miss it back in the 90s, you missed it. Like, unless you taped it, you missed it. Nowadays, oh shit, I missed Raw. Let me go on YouTube. Let me go on, you know, all these other online sites and catch up. No worries. You can find Raw in 5 minutes flat, even less. So it's not such a big deal if you miss the shows nowadays. And I guess that's the same way with a lot of shows, but you still see some shows rate very well. Raw's ratings, though, continues to decline. And I think right now the product's decent. Like, Raw still isn't great. SmackDown, I think, is a good show. So I think SmackDown deserves better ratings, but Raw probably not. But, you know, I don't think WWE is bad right now. We've certainly seen a lot worse in the last, you know, few years. So I think WWE is on the rise. I think it's doing better, but it's not really reflecting that well in the ratings. Are they going to blame that on the likes of Kevin Owens and an AJ Styles? I hope not, because I don't think that's fair. I think, to be honest, I don't think there's, for me personally, I don't think people generally tune in to watch whoever's champion. I think people tune in to watch the entire product. It's the same thing with house shows. You know, a lot of people kind of say, oh, well, this champion didn't draw as a house show. But I think in this day and age, you go to watch WWE. I don't think you go to watch a particular person. You'll have your favorites that you definitely want to see, but as an overall, I think you'll go and watch, you know, WWE if it's in your town. For example, NXT is coming to Australia in December. I don't even need to look at the card. I want to go to the show regardless because I'm a fan of NXT and I'm a fan of WWE. I want to check that out. It's the same thing with WWE. They came here in August or whatever. They didn't come to my city, but I wouldn't have to look at the card. I would still get tickets because I'm a fan of the show. I don't care who's on the card. I just want to go and watch because it's such a great time. So, to me, this is my personal opinion. I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments if you're different. But it doesn't really matter to me who's on top, who's the champ. Obviously, if Sheamus is in the main event, and, for example, WWE came to my city once every couple of months, maybe I'd skip the show. Maybe I wouldn't watch it. That's just, you know, I'm not hating on Sheamus, but, you know, for example, he's a wrestler I'm not really interested in. You know, if WWE came to me all the time, I probably would skip it. But, for example, they only come once a year here in Australia. I want to go. So it doesn't really matter to me. But that's my opinion. I guess it's a little bit different in the States because they come, you know, possibly within a 3-hour radius of your city all the time. So you can have the option to go all the time. But you might only choose to go if there's a particular main event that you want to see or there's a particular wrestler that's the champion. I don't know. So it could be different to everyone. But for me, that's my opinion. So I don't really tune into Raw if Roman Reigns is champion. I don't care. If, you know, Sheamus is the champion, I'm still going to tune in because I'm a fan. So it might fluctuate for different people. You know, people might say, oh, fuck Sheamus, he's a champion, I don't want to watch. Or, you know, I'm not a fan of Kevin Owens, I might skip Raw until he drops the belt, until Seth gets it back, maybe. You know, I think if you do that, you're not really a true fan of the product. I think you're just, you know, a casual, you know, I'll check it out if I feel like it type of fan. But that's, you know, some people are different. So, yeah, the ratings is an issue, and I think it's going to be an ongoing issue for quite some time until they try and rebuild WWE back up to perhaps where it was a few years ago at least. But it's certainly an issue right now, and I'm not sure what they can really do to overcome that. I think for Raw, personally, 3 hours is too long, and it's killing the show. It's killing the enjoyment of the show, but it doesn't look like they're going to change anytime soon. I keep on saying that every week, I know, but it's something that annoys me. Anyway, SmackDown. The Miz contract storyline, I love it. Him and Daniel Bryan going back and forth over contractual issues, championship issues. I like that a lot. That's the element of realism that I think they kind of need to add in. Contracts, disagreements with management, these types of things. Adding this in is perfect for storylines. I think personally this is where authority figures can intervene without them kind of taking over the show. Like, you know how we saw the Authority for such a long time, Stephanie, Triple H, being the whole show revolving around them. This is a way to kind of have Daniel Bryan get involved without kind of taking over and having a genuine storyline between the GM and a wrestler on the show. And it being entertaining and something different. I don't know. I like that. I like what they're doing there. So I hope they keep that going. Probably one of the highlights of SmackDown this week was the American Alpha versus the Usos. Now, last week's SmackDown, basically promo heavy. This week's a lot of wrestling, which is great. Great. So they kind of set it up last week, and they executed it this week, which is interesting, and I think it was a good way to do it. The Alphas versus the Usos, great storytelling. You know, Chad Gable had his leg hurt. Jason Jordan torn. Do I tag in my injured partner? I really need to tag out. I got to tag out here, but my partner's hurt. I got to keep on fighting. He can't do it. I've got to do this for my team. You know, he got caught out, got beat, whatever. You know, that type of storytelling I think is missing in WWE a lot these days. And that's the type of thing that really gets me involved in a match a lot more. That type of storytelling and having a purpose for the match and having a reason behind decisions. So kudos to the American Alpha and also the Usos as well. Have been doing very well since they turned. You know, I think the freshener of their characters is certainly what they've needed. The new look, honestly, I know it's not much of a change, but I actually really like it. You know, I see these guys come out, the slow walk, and these guys, I'm like, holy shit, these guys look threatening now. These guys look the real deal. I'm actually kind of, you know, oh shit, you know, taking them as a serious threat. So it's amazing how a change of look, a new attitude, they've even done a little bit different in the ring. They're being a lot more targeting limbs and being more aggressive and rather than the flashy style, they still do a bit of that, but still, you know, everything's a little bit more aggressive. It has a lot more menace behind it. So it's amazing how you can just tweak something and things start to work again. So I think it's cool. I think it's great. They're doing well so far. I think they probably will beat Slater and Rhino for the tag titles at No Mercy. I feel like they've kind of cooled off on the whole Slater thing in the last week or so and really focused on the Usos, the American Alpha, which is fine, but, you know, it kind of makes me worry, you know, how they're going to have Slater and Rhino win here, or is it just kind of like a, let's ride the momentum now, let's get back to what we were trying to go with originally when that was the Usos. So, you know, I don't think the Usos, if they do win, will hold the titles for long. I think the American Alpha will win it back, or win it for the first time off them. But I think it should make for some good matches going back and forth for the time being. But whilst they're doing this, they got to start building up some other teams in the background. And potentially the Wyatt family might be coming back. You know, Luke Harper probably coming back pretty soon, so they might have them as a legitimate team to come through. And a rivalry between the Wyatts and American Alpha I think would be cool. But they've also got to try and build up some other teams. The Hype Bros, maybe the Vaudevillains, Ascension. One of those teams are going to have to try and be built up as well to join that and kind of get on their level and have another team to kind of feud with once they've moved on from the current feuds. But certainly, big thumbs up from me for that. Thumbs up as well for The Miz and Ziggler. Their match again was fantastic. I really believed at one point when Ziggler hit that zigzag, I thought, holy shit, he's going to win. Did not see it coming. I'm like, oh wow, Ziggler's going to win. Miz kicked out. Miz won in a dirty way. You gotta say, Miz, probably the only guy getting legitimate heat in the WWE. I think most people were kind of like, fuck this guy. You know, fuck the Miz. But it's great. He actually gets boos. You know, he's getting heat. It's not like Kevin Owens where half the crowd loves him and the other crowd, you know, love to hate him. I think most people just hate the Miz. So I think it's cool that he's getting actual heat. And, you know, that was a great match. You know, good match there. So once again, another good match between those two. When I really thought I don't see myself getting invested in those matches because I've kind of seen them so much in the past. But hey, you know, what's old is new sometimes, and this kind of worked out pretty well, and they've performed quite well. And Cena and Ambrose at the end, the closeout SmackDown, was certainly very interesting to me. Cena losing, I was surprised, actually very shocked. Did not see Ambrose winning. Didn't quite like the finish. I felt like it was just, you know, quite a dull finish. Just you know, the setup wasn't great in my opinion, but, you know, Ambrose getting the win gives him some credibility heading towards No Mercy. Maybe I see Cena getting a win back next week over someone. I don't know. But Cena's losing a little bit more lately, which is, I think, good, honestly. I think Cena has been beating everyone for such a long period of time. A couple losses is not going to hurt him, but whereas a couple of losses to AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose elevates Styles, I mean, AJ Styles, his whole kind of shtick right now, is surrounded by beating John Cena, and it's working tremendously. Ambrose gets a win over Cena. after losing the championship, all of a sudden, all right, we take Ambrose as a threat again. So I think it works out very well for both guys, and I think it's the right call. But that's it for SmackDown, the coverage this week. I thought SmackDown was good, like I said, and looking forward to seeing what they do, but obviously No Mercy, not too far away, so the build-up's not going to be as good, a bit of a short turnaround for SmackDown, so I'll be interested to see what they come up with in the next couple of weeks. Moving on now, and we'll start off with the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. We're going to give my full rundown, my predictions on all the matches happening on this show. Alright, so the pre-show match, Alicia Fox versus Nia Jax. Pretty simple, Nia Jax wins. Potentially, Paige might come out and attack Nia Jax or make the save after the match or something along those lines to set up for a Paige and Nia Jax feud down the line. Wouldn't be surprised if we see that at all. TJ Perkins versus Brian Kendrick for the Cruiserweight Championship. Perkins will win. You can't give him the championship and give him that big Cruiserweight tournament victory. He gets a fucking medal, he gets a trophy, he gets the title, and he loses. That's not going to happen, surely. So Perkins, he's got to win that. Cesaro versus Sheamus in the final match of the best of 7. Again, it'd be stupid if Cesaro lost this. He has the big comeback, the big, build-up. He's won 3 in a row now. Or is it? Yeah, 3 in a row now. For him to lose would just be ridiculous. It'd be asinine. I mean, why would Cesaro have this huge comeback only for Sheamus to win? So apparently the winner of that will get a US title match, which I can't see them getting a world title match. I think everyone is under the assumption they'll get a Universal Championship match. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll just be a US title match. And I see Cesaro winning and perhaps having a match against Rusev for that title. And you'd have to say, after having a best of 7 and having all that build up for it, that if Cesaro, or Sheamus for that matter, won that best of 7 and went on to lose their title match, it would just be a complete waste of fucking time, wouldn't it? And I would say that's what's going to happen. Speaking of the US title, Rusev versus Roman Reigns for the US title. I believe Rusev will win in some fashion. I think Lana will get herself involved somehow, and Rusev will keep that championship. Don't think Roman Reigns needs the US title, and plus, I think you want to keep Roman Reigns for potentially a Kevin Owens feud down the line. They've kind of already set that up. So I think you want to keep Roman Reigns available for that. So Rusev still a US champion. Perhaps, a DQ or a count out or some type of way, or even a distraction or something. Some way Rusev will win and keep that championship. Sami Zayn versus Chris Jericho, just one-on-one. I think Jericho has got a lot of momentum right now, not in terms of wins and losses, but in terms of crowd support and reaction. I think I could see Jericho winning, honestly. I think Sami Zayn needs the win, yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if Chris wins. I'm going to say Chris. Honestly, I'm enjoying Jericho a lot. I wouldn't mind him getting a win. I'm not too hot on Sami Zayn. Like, Sami Zayn, I think he's a great wrestler, but, in terms of his character, I'm just not really feeling it. Just not for me, but, I think Chris Jericho, I'm enjoying the hell out of him, so I'd much rather see Chris win at the moment. Triple threat match for the Women's Championship, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. Now, I feel as though they kind of made that as a triple threat because of the backlash that they saw last week, and no pun intended, from the double pin situation. I think that was botched. But I think as well as that, it makes sense. I mean, Bayley's kind of been involved, and for her to sit out of the pay-per-view after debuting not long ago would be kind of ridiculous, wouldn't it? So I think it makes sense for Bayley to be involved in this. So a triple threat match. Who's going to win? I feel like Charlotte won the title because of the injury of Sasha Banks. Now the injury isn't as bad as they believed. I feel like they might give it back to Sasha Banks. So I'm going to say Sasha. The New Day versus Gallows and Anderson for the tag team titles. I'll say this. If Gallows and Anderson don't win this, just fucking release them. That's it. They're done. Finished. Their horrible comedy has been awful to watch through. The New Day has been stale and really boring me to tears. I hope Gallows and Anderson win and finally get some credibility, because otherwise they're finished. They've been beaten by the New Day every damn week as it is. They're done, honestly. So get the titles off the New Day. It's been long enough. They've had a year-long reign or whatever it is. Great. It's time for something different. Gallows and Anderson, give them the belts. Let them have the run. Let them get some credibility. Let them build some momentum. Let's just let them go out there and kick ass. That's all. That's all they've got to do. Just kick some ass. Beat up the New Day. None of this, balls, retirement home bullshit. Just come out there and beat the shit out of the guys. That's all they got to do. So I'm going to say Gallows and Anderson wins. Owens versus Rollins for the Universal Championship. You can't have Kevin Owens have this big win and kind of take it away from him again. So I don't think Seth Rollins needs the belt right now. And plus, I think Seth Rollins chasing the championship will be much more interesting than him having the championship. So I think right now, for Seth Rollins' sake, I think him chasing is much more beneficial for him. And also would be better for him to build up him chasing the championship as a babyface character. So I think right now Owens winning is the right decision. So that's Clash of Champions. It's looking pretty interesting. There's a lot of good matches on there, don't get me wrong. I think Zayn and Jericho will be good. Rusev and Reigns will be good. Cesaro and Sheamus have seen it 1,000 times, but still could be okay. Perkins and Kendrick, I think, will be solid. Quite honestly, I think pretty much every one of these matches has the potential to be great. That's not often we get to say that, but I think this is actually a really solid pay-per-view card. Perkins and Kendrick, that's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind that opening the show, honestly. Open the show with a bang. And wouldn't be a bad spot for the Cruiserweights. Yes, I know opening the show is a bit detrimental, but hey, it's better than being the piss break. So you kick the show off with a lot of fun. I think people would be into that. Kind of like when they would kick the show off with a really hot tag team match. Back when the Usos were champions or whatever, and they're having all those great matches with the Wyatt family or the Shield. They'd always open the show off and really be a lot of fun. I think you can kind of make that the Cruiserweights kind of role. Open the show off, and that's kind of like they are. They're not the main event. They're not upper mid-card, they're kind of the undercard, but hey, they're different, they're kind of unique. And opening the show off with a really entertaining match, I think would be a great way to do it. Better than kind of doing, better to do that than Cesaro and Sheamus to open the show off, for example. But I'm looking forward to the show. Like I said, lots of good matches on here. I'm gonna say Owens and Rollins will be the match of the night. Final piece of news this week, we're not going to talk about it for long. Hulk Hogan. Bit of talk that he might be on the cards returning. They're a little still iffy about it, but they feel like maybe WrestleMania time, that he's cooled off enough by then and the heat's died down enough that they might be able to bring him back. My thoughts are, look, Hogan's a legend. He's, one of the reasons why wrestling boomed so much that it did. To shun him out of wrestling forever would be a mistake, I think. He made some mistakes. He said some things he shouldn't have said. He really fucked up. He's paid the price, I think. Obviously, winning this, lawsuit, he might be, earning a lot out of it, which should be a little bit shitty, but I don't know if he'll ever see that money, to be honest with you. But personally, I'm not against it. I'm not a Hogan fan, really. Not in 2016 anyways. I don't think I ever really was a Hogan fan. I like him in the NWO back in the 90s, but, obviously that's me watching it beyond the fact, after the fact. But I was not really a Hogan fan. Obviously, I wasn't around the 80s. I'm not that old. I'm only, I'm a 90s kid, but I'm, not in the 80s. But, yeah, so I'm not a huge Hogan fan, so I couldn't care less, honestly. But, I think him coming out for WrestleMania, just doing doing his catchphrase, doing a pose, whatever. It'd be interesting to see how the crowd would respond. Would they boo him or would they cheer him? That alone would be worth the price of admission, I think. That would be worth having him back, just to see how people would respond to him. And maybe he would get booed out of the building and he'll never come back again. That'd be interesting. But you never know. You never know how wrestling fans will respond. All right, so that's it for the wrestling chat. But we're going to get onto some questions that you guys have sent me in this week. In terms of what I've been playing this week, I've been playing NBA 2K17 religiously. I want to say a quick thank you to everyone that has checked out my NBA videos on the channel. I know a lot of you guys have not, and some of you guys have not really cared or not been interested in it. My channel's been kind of suffering the last couple of weeks, so I'm hoping that it picks up soon. I feel like I'm doing good with the NBA. I'm really enjoying it, really enjoying those videos. So if you can check out those videos for me, that would be really appreciated. But I've been playing a lot of NBA, so hoping to keep that going. And apart from that, I don't know, not really much else, to be honest with you. I'm kind of really looking forward to Battlefield, so I'm kind of waiting until the next shooter comes out. Going to get FIFA 17, so I'll be playing plenty of that, and we might stream a bit of that as well. So keep an eye out for that. All right, so let's get into this week's questions. Alrighty, so this first question is coming in from Alfonso Romero. Shout out to Alfonso, always sending in questions every week. Will you be introducing another Women's Championship for SmackDown on WWE 2K17? No, I won't be. at the moment, I only want to have one women's division on both shows. I don't want to split the division. I think that's a bit of a mistake because I don't think there's enough women to really warrant it. I think we've already had enough repetitive matches as is. I think right now we have brought in a lot of new women for Universe Mo. We're going to bring in a lot more when 2K17 does come out. But, I think right now we kind of have the perfect amount because we're not seeing that many repetitive matches, in my opinion. We are having a lot of women who are missing out, kind of, and we can always bring them in at some point and spice things up a little bit. So I think for the most part, things are working out pretty well. And splitting that up, I think, would be a mistake. I think it really would. I think we're kind of really gaining some momentum with our women's division. To be honest with you, I didn't want to have women in my Universe Mo at all back when I first started. I really didn't. I was going to not use them. And I feel like right now it's taken me probably a few years to really do anything with them. And that's just being honest. I've kind of been really slack with it, really not motivated to do much. I just kind of throw a match together. Now I'm trying to create storylines. Now I'm trying to do something, and I feel like I'm getting somewhere with the women. So I'm enjoying what we're doing, so there's no real need to add another women's championship. There's no real need to split them up either. This one's from Kariko. He wants to know, do I think The Miz will beat Honky Tonk Man's record of 454 days as Intercontinental Champion? He believes this is the perfect time to do it. I don't think there's a chance that in hell that's going to happen. I don't think anyone should hold a championship for that long these days. CM Punk holding it for that long was incredible. I don't think The Miz deserves to hold it that long, if that's a way to say it. Yes, he's been good as champion, but I feel like him being champion for that long isn't necessary. I think you got to remember that's like another year. That's still another year or so of Miz as Intercontinental Champion. Just think about that right now. Miz champion for another year. Do you think that's really necessary? I really don't. I think Miz having a long reign is interesting. I don't think there's really many other guys right now that can take it from him. So there's a fair chance that he may hold it up until WrestleMania time. It's possible because they haven't really built anyone else up to really take it from him on SmackDown. But I definitely don't see him holding it for another year. And I don't think it's really necessary. I think it's better off kind of establishing someone else, building them up. I always thought Apollo Crews would be perfect. For some reason, they don't want to do Apollo Crews. So bring in someone else, push someone else, establish them up, build them up, and kind of have Miz drop the belt to them to kind of put them over pretty well. I think that'd be the perfect way to do it. Whether that be at WrestleMania, maybe before that, maybe the Royal Rumble, I don't know. But definitely would be unlikely to see him hold it for that long. This one's from Thomas Speller. Of course, shout out to Thomas, always sending a question as well. Big shout out to him. All right, so do I think since the Cruiserweight division is exclusive to Raw, the women's division should have been exclusive to SmackDown? I'm a little indifferent. I feel like Raw needs to fill in more time. I probably would have went the other way around. Women exclusive to Raw, Cruiserweights on SmackDown as something different for SmackDown. I feel like Cruiserweights is a better fit on SmackDown. Something different, some more incentive to tune into SmackDown. I don't think Raw needs that incentive. I think most people are going to tune into Raw anyways. I think since it's going to be like the land of opportunity, why not give all these brand new guys that couldn't get an opportunity beforehand, give them an opportunity on SmackDown? So the whole storyline, the whole purpose around SmackDown from the get-go was to give more people opportunities, but Raw's kind of done that. So it's kind of a little bit interesting how they've kind of, shaped that up. But I think they kind of got a little bit backwards, but Cruiserweights on Raw, I think, is a bit of a letdown for SmackDown. But the women on both shows, I think, should happen. I think women on both shows is fine. Over time, in 6 months' time, when we've seen every combination of match possible out of both rosters, we may be thinking differently. But for right now, it's okay. But I think long-term, not so much. They're going to have to kind of flip those rosters upside down in maybe 6 months' time. This one's from Brock Owens. Do you think Neville deserves a push, or do you think his mic skills hold him back too much? Absolutely, he deserves a push. Now, you look at the Cruiserweight division right now, he'd be perfect for it. They don't really need to come out and cut too many promos. I mean, for God's sake, they had Grand Metalik come out there and cut a promo in Spanish, and they played the whole thing. Like, why does it matter? So if they're going to act like that, I don't think it really matters. So Neville is an incredibly talented superstar in the ring. He is fantastic. He's a great wrestler. He definitely deserves more than what he's getting. Losing every week is a waste. His mic skills absolutely hold him back. His mic skills are terrible. But I think he can definitely be a great asset to that cruiserweight division. And, he's the type of guy I could see holding an Intercontinental Championship, for example, at some point. Just being a workhorse, just being, working hard in the ring, getting it done in the ring. Doesn't have to cut the promos, but, he can be entertaining in the ring. Manager, if there was more managers these days, a manager for Neville would be good, but unfortunately there really isn't. Neville's accent really is the big thing. It's not just his accent, though. He's just not really all that comfortable on the microphone as it is. So, whilst his accent is, a detriment, it's not just all about that. I think it's just his mic skills in general. So, he definitely does need an improvement, but unfortunately that's probably not going to happen. So, I think the best fit for him would be to kind of jump him into that cruiserweight division. This one's from Thomas Speller. Which general manager do you think will be gone first, Bryan or Foley? I think it's going to be Foley. I think this whole Stephanie and Foley thing's going to blow up eventually. Didn't really see Mick Foley as a long-term GM anyways. I think Mick Foley as GM has been, some weeks is good, some weeks not so bad. This week I think he was better, but some weeks he's been pretty shitty. So I think they've kind of used the GMs too much. I've been counting this, 4, 5, 6 segments a show to some of the GMs, not just on Raw, it's on SmackDown too. So I think the GMs are being overexposed a little bit too much too soon. And I think that's a bad decision. I think maybe have them do a couple things on the show, but you don't have to have the whole show, 25 minutes of the show dedicated to the GM. I think that's a little bit way too much. I think they really need to tone back on the usage of their GMs. And that's the reason why perhaps some people have been a little bit sour on the GM situation, because they've just been using them far too much. Jonathan Westcott. If Triple H interferes in the Seth Rollins vs. Kevin Owens match, in what way do you predict him to interfere? Now, I didn't touch on this when I was discussing the match earlier. I kind of forgot about it, so you bring up a good point. Absolutely, I think Triple H is going to show up. I completely forgot about that, but I definitely think Triple H is going to show up. It's not no DQ, but I could see Triple H inserting his authority. Maybe the referee's down, a ref bump, Triple H comes out, does something. Maybe Triple H brings in his own referee and just completely screws over Rollins. Triple H, I can see him just inserting himself, using his authority, using his power to his own advantage. Now, him not actually explaining why he's helped out Kevin Owens makes this very difficult, because is he with Kevin Owens, or does he just not like Seth Rollins? What's the deal here? We don't really know. Why is he all of a sudden against Seth Rollins? I have no idea. He hasn't explained it. I think that's a really poor decision for him not to explain that. But hey, maybe he shows up at Clash of Champions, does something else. Next time on Raw, he explains himself. I don't know. But, I think it was very shocking what happened when he did it on Raw a few weeks ago. I think it was fantastic. So I definitely expect him to show up again. What will he do? Probably a pedigree to Rollins. Gets the referee, brings, his crooked referee out. Maybe he does that, helps Owens win the championship again, or defend the championship, I should say. I don't know, but that's just my opinion. So we'll see. I definitely think he's going to show up in some way. Adam Lawton, what do you think of Dana and Charlotte's partnership? It seems like a master and a slave storyline. It's definitely a little bit like the Miz and Alex Riley storyline. They kind of a bit of a rehash of that. It seems like at this point, Dana Brooke will turn on Charlotte down the road. I'm not sure when or how, but it feels like they're kind of heading in that direction. I don't mind that, but I think Dana Brooke on her own would be, it'd be a sight for sore eyes. It's not great. Her in the ring, she's not great. She's not good. But her losing to Sasha and Bayley every week, it's not bad. She's got a good position there. She loses most of her matches. She, instead of Charlotte losing, she's got someone to lose for her. So it certainly helps out. She certainly has a purpose right now. So in that regard, it's not so bad. But if she broke out on her own, I'm not sure about that. Final question today comes from Alfonso Romero. Will you be doing exclusive pay-per-views for Raw and SmackDown on WWE2K17 Universe Mode? I've thought about it. I still haven't decided at this stage. No, I won't be changing anything right now. I just feel like splitting it up, I think most people want to see things happen soon. Because the thing is, WWE, you kind of see it. What am I trying to say here? I'm just trying to say, you see Monday Night Raw and SmackDown all the time. You see so much of it. You see 3 hours of it. So you kind of see enough. And you could go without seeing a pay-per-view once a month. Whereas on my universe mode, you see basically 4 half-an-hour episodes of Raw and SmackDown, maybe in a month, maybe in 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. So I guess you kind of want to see the results sooner rather than later. I don't think you see enough to kind of, space it out any longer. I don't know. And I feel like, yes, I could build it up a little longer and do that, but also it's kind of like, well, I have to try and fill in a couple weeks. Then I feel like I'm instead of really planning out a storyline, I'm kind of filling in a bit of time. I'm having matches that probably don't need to happen, but I'm having them for the sake of it. So I think right now I'm just going to stick to the schedule, and we'll revisit it later. Maybe after WrestleMania we might decide to change things up. I'll think about it then, but for right now, it's going to be same old, same old. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this week's edition of the LTT Podcast. Make sure you do leave a question for next week's episode. We're going to be chatting about Clash of Champions next week, so make sure you send in all your Clash of Champions thoughts and opinions, and send me a comment about the pay-per-view for next week's show. Also, if you've got any questions, doesn't have to be wrestling, sport, movies, TV, anything. If you want me to comment on the election, I'll give it a shot. Anything you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments below, and you can do that by leaving a comment in our YouTube comment section of this video, or you can head over to our Facebook page next Wednesday and leave a question over there, or over in our forums, redplays.com/forums, and heading over to our official LTT Podcast question page and checking that out and leaving your question there. It's free to sign up. We'll be talking about Clash of Champions this week on the forums. Hope to see you all there. And lots of videos coming up, lots of NBA, Universe More, still going to be pumping a lot of those out. We've got a Power Rankings video coming up very shortly, which is always a lot of fun. I have so much fun making those. And more GMO, more news, whatever we can do, we're going to get a lot more stuff out for you guys to enjoy. And hopefully you guys do. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of the LTT Podcast. If you can, spread it around to your friends, tell a friend about it, leave a like on this video, and subscribe to see more, whether it be subscribing on iTunes to get the weekly download or subscribing on YouTube. However you can, subscribe to support the podcast and the channel. Thank you very much for listening in this week, guys, and I'll see you all next week.